Welcome to Learn Robotics and AI. In this video, I'll be introducing you to GPT Curriculum Builder that would essentially create a personalized robotics or AI learning roadmap for you. It would take into account your personal goals, aspirations, interests, and location or financial constraints and would create yearly, quarterly, monthly, and weekly roadmap or a plan for you. You can access this curriculum builder on the website learnroboticsandai.com/GPT curriculum builder. And throughout this video, I'll be walking you through several case studies of hypothetical and real people who are in a different field, such as mechanical engineering, electronics engineering, software, or even non-engineering fields, and who want to transition to robotics engineering, robotic software engineering, computer vision engineering, or machine learning engineering. So we'll be using this curriculum builder and I'll be walking you through how you can use it to create your own personalized roadmap for yourself. One quick point is that you might need to use your own OpenAI API keys, and I'll be walking you through how to access those also in this video. I'll be taking up different case studies. I'll be also talking about my own experience. I'll be taking up myself as a case study of me working as a mechanical design engineer 5 years ago and wanting to transition to robotics. And we'll see how GPT Curriculum Builder will make a yearly, quarterly, monthly, and weekly roadmap for me that would have allowed me to make a transition without going for a master. So that would be interesting to watch, and I'll also be comparing the curriculums generated by the GPT-4 curriculum builder to the curriculums that I created in a lot of my previous videos if you have been following. So let's get started. First of all, let's get the OpenAI API keys, and we can do that by logging into our OpenAI accounts, and once you do that, you'd be able to see these three options. You can just select API and you can go to view API keys, and I'll be creating a new API key right now called curriculum builder and create secret key, and I do that and I'll be essentially copying it now. So I copied it and I'll paste it here to see that it has been copied. It has been. And now I would essentially go to the website learnroboticsandai.com and I would select GPT Curriculum Builder here. So I'll first take myself as a case study of me working as a mechanical design engineer 5 years ago. So my status was mechanical design engineer and I did my bachelor's in manufacturing process and automation engineering. I was based in India and my skill set was, I would say, C++, but I would call it basic because I didn't work in any company as a software engineer, so this was something that I only got to learn throughout my university through courses and so on. So C++ basic, but I was also involved in CAD tools such as CATIA, SolidWorks. So this was something that I was using a lot as part of my work, and perhaps also CAE tools. I'll just mention it vaguely. This was my skill set and my constraints. I can say I cannot afford to pursue a master's in robotics. Okay, so I do that and I'd say financial constraints, yes, location constraints, no, time constraints, no. And what are my aspirations? I want to work in mobile robots, in the field of mobile robotics in the software domain. Mobile robotics in the software domain. My time availability, I would say 15 hours because I had a full-time job and I essentially only had the weekends. So my interests involved mobile robots, kinematics and dynamics, robotic gripping mechanisms. So these were essentially the things that I was interested in at that time. My prior experience in robotics and AI was very limited. I built a basic 2 degree of freedom drawing robot as part of my university project, and I took part in a robotics workshop also during the early years of my bachelor's. I would leave specific queries as empty, and I would select the API key and I would paste it here and I would submit it. It says invalid OpenAI API key. I think this is something that happens sometimes. I would essentially just fill the details again and paste it again. So location, India, skill set, C++, basics, and CAD software such as CATIA and SolidWorks, etc., and also CAE tools. So quickly filling it out again. Constraints, I cannot afford to pursue a master's in robotics. Okay, that should be quick. Okay, so this is it. Now let's paste the API key again here and submit it, and it you see this thinking button. This means that it is processing. And here is the personalized plan to become a robotics software engineer, develop proficiency in mobile robot software development. Okay, so this is the yearly goal, that I should develop proficiency in mobile robot software development. And how would I do that? Here are the quarterly goals. So the first quarter goal is to learn programming language Python for robotics. So this is interesting because this is something that I also personally recommend people who are new to software, who want to transition from mechanical or electronics engineering to software, that Python is an easier programming language to start with. And this is what it also recommends. So this is what the first quarter would be dedicated to. Let's see, the second quarter goal is to understand mobile robot kinematics and dynamics. This is also something that I mentioned as my interest, so this is also very interesting to watch that it took all of my prompts into account. Gain expertise in robotic gripping mechanisms. So once I have a foundational understanding of kinematics and dynamics, then it is specializing a bit towards robotic gripping mechanisms. And the final quarter is to develop robotic software skills for mobile robot control. Okay, interesting. Let's look at the monthly goals for each of these quarterly goals. Learn programming language Python, learn basic syntax and data types, learn object oriented programming and libraries in Python, apply Python skills to solve basic robotics problems. So here, the third month is dedicated to doing Python project, and the first 2 months are dedicated to learning Python. Although personally, if I were to make a quarterly plan, I would say 1 month is enough to just get familiar with Python, and then you can start doing projects. So coming to the second quarter, study kinematics concepts and equations, understand dynamics principles for mobile robots, and apply kinematics and dynamics knowledge to simulate mobile robot motion. Okay, interesting. So the way that it has structured is that it has structured the first 2 months to learning the theory and the last month to building a small project. Essentially, for the first 2 quarters, personally, I would spend more time doing projects. Essentially, 1 month is maybe enough, or essentially you can learn things as you're building the project. So if you focus on a slightly bigger project and you learn the theory along the way, I think that is also very, very effective. Now coming to quarter three, again, study different types of robotic gripper, learn about gripping mechanisms and their specifications, and design and implement a basic gripping mechanism. So it follows the same structure of the first 2 months dedicated to theory and the last month dedicated to building a small project. And for quarter four, develop software skills for mobile robot control, learn robotic control algorithms and architectures. Okay, understand localization and mapping. So this is interesting because SLAM, simultaneous localization and mapping, or essentially localization and mapping, navigation, these are the things that are used a lot in mobile robots, mobile robotics. And then you develop and test a mobile robot control software. So overall, this is a pretty decent plan. I don't agree essentially with everything that the plan suggests, but if you are struggling to find a roadmap or a plan, or if you're procrastinating a lot, this is essentially a decent plan to just get you started, and you can refine the plan as well uh, if you want to make it more specific, if you're interested in some specific projects and so on. So overall, I think this plan is good enough. I would rate it essentially, let's say 6 or 7 out of 10. So it is definitely usable. So now let's go ahead and look at some other specific use cases of other students with different backgrounds wanting to transition to robotics essentially. So let's take the example of Daniel Caruso. So if you have watched my video titled The Complete Space Robotics Roadmap, this is the case study that I took in that video. So Daniel Caruso works in project management. He did his bachelor's in arts with a minor in computer science, and he wants to pursue a master's in engineering. And he's particularly passionate towards space applications. He wants to explore both hardware and software, and he wants to find out his niche. And he is essentially looking for a project based curriculum. So let's simply try to feed this information to the personalized robotics curriculum builder now. Okay, so I'll start again here. And status is he works in project management. So works in project management. Education is BA with the minor in computer science. Makes sense. Location is United States, and he is American. And his current skill sets include basics of Python, JavaScript, and C++ as part of his university program. So I would write it basics of Python, JavaScript, and C++ programming, only fundamentals as part of the university program. So specifically mentioning it here. And constraints, Daniel essentially does not have many constraints. He wants to slowly transition to robotics within a span of 2 to 3 years. He has a full-time job, so he doesn't want to hurry things too much. So I'll leave constraints here as empty, and I would select no financial constraints, no location constraints, and no time constraints. So he aspires to work professionally in space robotics, and he wants to find out his niche in robotics software and hardware profiles, and he seeks a project based curriculum to allow him to transition to robotics. One thing I'd like to specify here is that he's primarily interested in space robotics, so I would mention it here. And then weekly time availability for Daniel is essentially 20 hours per week, and his interests include space technology primarily, but also working with hardware and software. So both hardware and software. Okay, his prior experience includes working as a hardware mechanic for a few years, which he mentioned, and that gave him exposure to tinkering with cars and electronics. And he realized that he is quite passionate about engineering and tinkering and building things and breaking things apart and things of that nature. He also wants to explore software and hardware, so both of these things. So specific queries, again, I'd leave it as empty and copying the OpenAI API key, which you can easily find. So okay, it again says invalid OpenAI API key. I really need to fix this, but I would essentially continue with it. You can even skip this part. I would essentially try to keep it as quick as I possibly can. So this is something that happens sometimes, and I don't know the reason for that yet. Okay, so current skills are again basics in JavaScript, Python, and C++ as part of the university program. All right, okay. So constraints, leaving it as none here, and aspirations we have essentially written is, so he wants to explore his niche in robotics hardware and software profiles, and essentially for space applications. So we would mention this explicitly here. Okay, weekly time availability is 20 hours. Interests are space technology, working with hardware and software, and prior experience is working as a hardware mechanic for a few years. Okay, hopefully the API key works now, and it works, and it is thinking or processing and creating a yearly plan. Okay, so the goal is to obtain a job in space robotics software and hardware profiles. Okay, I think this is probably not the best yearly goal, and I would say that it is my fault because I didn't mention it, that he wants to transition within 2 to 3 years, and he wants to essentially build a portfolio of projects. So I should have specifically mentioned that I want to build a portfolio of space robotics related projects. But again, I think there's nothing wrong with this yearly goal. It is just that I didn't specify the things that I wanted. So with GPT-4, more often than not, if the result is not as expected, it's because it hasn't been prompted correctly. But it would essentially create a roadmap of project based curriculum or a plan. So let's see what it has created. So learn the fundamentals of robotics and space technology. Of course, if you have no foundation, you need to spend some time building a foundation. Complete online courses in robotics and space technology, with first month dedicating towards studying the basics of robotics and space technology. Research different types of space robotics software and hardware profiles. Okay, so this is interesting because it asks the user to essentially research different types of space robotics software and hardware profiles. So this is very practical because it takes into account that the goal is to obtain a job in space robotics. And I mentioned this thing in my videos, that you should be spending some time really looking for jobs before you even start learning, so that you know what kind of skills to focus on and what are the things that you should be learning. So study basics of robotics and space technology and research relevant job profiles. Develop a solid understanding of space technology and its application in robotics. Explore different hardware components used in space robotics. Okay, here it starts asking you to really explore what are the different hardware components and gain a solid foundational understanding. And third month is to gain practical experience by working on small robotics projects. Familiarize yourself with programming languages commonly used in space robotics. Gain proficiency in software development for space robotics and collaborate on a project related to space robotics software. So the second quarter is dedicated to software development for space robotics, and the first quarter is dedicated to just building some foundation. So this makes a lot of sense. Looking at the monthly breakdown for the second quarter. So learn advanced programming techniques for and algorithms for space robotics. Develop coding skills in specific languages used in space robotics applications. So again, very practical. It has left it a bit vague, and the reason for that is that we didn't specify things that we want to focus on specific programming languages. So this is something that one needs to specify in interests. So let's see how the next use cases would be. We'll try to keep things more specific from the next use cases. But again, this is an interesting plan. So what is also very interesting is that all of these things are practical because it asks you to research different types of space robotics software and hardware profiles first, and then familiarize yourself with programming languages commonly used in space robotics and collaborate on a project related to space robotics software. So it allows a lot of researching and looking into what kind of things are used in the industry first. Study software engineering principles applied in space robotics, complete an online course on software development for space applications, and apply your knowledge by developing software for space robotics project. So 1 month is dedicated to building a project, which I think is definitely not enough at all. Participate in relevant online forums and communities to expand your network. Okay, so gain proficiency in software development. Actually, it didn't really generate the goals after the second quarter, so that is interesting. The personalized plan continues with quarterly, but the provided response has reached the word limit, so good luck on your learning journey. Okay, I see. Yeah, so I deliberately limited the word limit because the current version essentially it fails to process if the word limit is exceeded. So this is an initial version of the GPT-4 curriculum builder, and I'm essentially looking for your feedback. And once you start using it, do you find this helpful? And what are the things that can be improved? So once you start providing me with feedback, I'd be iterating and creating version 2 and better versions of the current software. So I'm really looking forward to your feedback. So this is interesting that it reached the word limit. So there are flaws in that, but let's now compare it with the roadmap that I built for Daniel Caruso. So if you watched my video titled The Space Robotics Roadmaps, you're already familiar with what I'm going to share now. So it involves certain number of phases, with the first phase involving building a mechanical subsystem, the second phase involving building an electronic subsystem, and phase 3 requiring you to build a software system. And before that, you have to spend some time planning the project, and after that you define your niche based on building these subsystems. So I created a roadmap taking into account that uh, Daniel needs to essentially explore different subdomains, and he can do that by means of taking an interdisciplinary space robotics related project. So, and I've also mentioned this: create a list of top space robotics companies and extract skills and tools from job requirements and check their primary products and services and create a list of relevant projects based on that. So, this is also something that I found interesting in the GPT curriculum. GPT generated curriculum is that it essentially asks you to research what are the different profiles, hardware and software related profiles in the space robotics industry. Okay, so this is how the plan looked like. Project planning for 2 months, then the next 3 months dedicated to building the mechanical system, the next 3 months dedicated to building the electronic system, and after that build the software system, and spend a month really thinking about which of the subsystems you really enjoyed working with the most and define your niche very clearly. So this is how the plan was. I wouldn't go into details explaining um, each of the quarterly and weekly goals. You can go ahead and watch the video titled The Complete Space Robotics Roadmap, where I've explained things in a lot of detail. Okay, let's go to the second use case of Peter Whitman, and he is currently a master student in curriculum design. So this one is also a very interesting use case. You can also watch this is also use case in one of my YouTube videos titled How to Build a Meaningful Robotics Career. So this is a very interesting use case because this guy was essentially looking for something at the intersection of teaching and curriculum design, but using robotics and AI. So status is MSc student in curriculum design, and he did his bachelor's in computer science, and he's located in the United States and is also American, and his current skill sets include just Python, fundamentals of Python. So I would just mention fundamentals of Python here. And constraints, he currently cannot afford to pursue a master's in robotics or AI. So he just has financial constraints, but he has no time constraints, and he is not willing to relocate, so he also has location related constraints. Now, the aspirations. So he essentially wants to work at the intersection of um, teaching and robotics and AI, or CVML. So he's interested in curriculum design roles or developer relation roles for CV or ML applied to robotics, and he seeks to build a technical foundation. And what is interesting is also that he is interested in building a meaningful career involving machine learning or computer vision for robotics. So he wants to keep robotics as an application, and he is passionate towards climate change, and he considers agricultural robotics very interesting. So he finds these causes very meaningful. He is passionate about teaching. He doesn't want to do a research. So these are the things that are clear. So I've already created a prompt here, so I would just read it out. I aspire to build a meaningful career at the intersection of robotics and teaching. I have a passion for teaching technology. I'm also interested in curriculum design roles or developer relation roles for CV or ML applied to robotics. I seek to build a technical foundation in robotics, CV, or ML within 1 year. So here I have specified things in a lot more detail. And weekly time availability for him is also around, let's say, 20 hours a week roughly. Or I can specifically mention 2 hours daily and 4 hours on the weekends. And his interests include machine learning and computer vision for robotics, passion for teaching technology. He's passionate about climate change. He is not inclined towards research, but he wants to consider agricultural robotics or harvesting robotics. So his prior experience is basically nothing in robotics or AI, and he has no specific queries. And I really hope the API key works. Otherwise, I have to really run it again and again. So for some reason, it doesn't work for the first time, and it does work for the second time. Uh, but the good thing is I can essentially just autofill most of the things. So bachelor's in computer science, again, location United States, American. Current skill set is basics of Python programming. Constraints are cannot afford to pursue a master's in robotics or AI. Okay. All right. So financial constraints are yes, as I said. Location constraints are also yes. No time related constraints. Aspirations are, as I mentioned, he wants to build a meaningful career in involving a lot of different causes he cares about, and machine learning or computer vision for robotics, passion for teaching technology, climate change, agriculture, and so on. No prior experience in robotics and AI, no specific queries, and I would now try to paste this again here, and this works. So again, I need to fix some of the things. I have no clue why copying the API key doesn't work for the first time and it works second time effortlessly. So there are still flaws in this curriculum builder, but I want you to really try it out and give me your feedback. What are the things that can be improved? Because I am really passionate about this thing. I think this can be very impactful, essentially, because you don't need to spend a lot of effort then um, creating a personalized roadmap for yourself, because it can be very time consuming, and you can save a lot of time if GPT-4 can create a personalized roadmap for you. So definitely try to save your time, and you can watch my video titled The Complete Robotics Roadmap to start learning, the Complete Robotics Roadmap in 2023 or something like that. And in that video, I have explained in a lot of detail how you can essentially create a personalized roadmap for yourself. And of course, I urge you to really try out this tool and also watch that video so that you can refine the yearly, quarterly, monthly plan that this tool has created, and that would essentially save you a lot of time. So here I'm curious about the plan that it has created for him. Yearly goal is to obtain a strong technical foundation in robotics, computer vision, machine learning, and this is spot on. This is essentially spot on, because as he mentioned, or as I have mentioned on his behalf, is that um, he wants to essentially gain a strong technical foundation so that he can go for these teaching roles. But this is the thing that he was lacking, right? So quarter one is dedicated to completing online courses to gain a fundamental understanding of robotics and computer vision. Okay, makes sense. You can take online courses, although my personal view is to just take up projects, and you can essentially take up online courses, learn the basics of robotics and its applications, study computer vision, apply computer vision in robotics projects. So this one is particularly interesting because I mentioned there that I'm interested in computer vision or ML for robotics applications. So gain, no, or at least I mentioned that I'm interested in CV, ML, and robotics. So it takes into account these things, and in the next quarter, I also see that it suggests that you gain knowledge and experience in machine learning for robotics. So learn the fundamentals of machine learning and its applications in robotics, dive deeper into computer vision for machine learning. Okay. Implement machine learning algorithms in robotics projects. Okay, again, so the goals might seem a bit vague, and they essentially are, but this can serve as a starting point for you to really make it more specific. For example, what are the projects that uh, you can generate? And actually, my initial version of the curriculum builder also suggested specific projects, and those were also very good and very realistic projects. So this is something that you can use chat gpt directly for as well. And there's something that I plan to include in the next iterations. I had to eliminate it because, as I said, there's a word limit, and I had to reduce the word limit so that all of the entire plan fits in a certain number of tokens that GPT-4 uses. So yeah, there's a lot of improvements to be made, but I think it has the potential. So the third quarter should be dedicated towards developing practical skills in robotic software development. Okay, what does it mean by that? Learn programming languages commonly used in robotics, for example, Python and C++. Explore robotics simulation environments and practical software development. So very uh, interesting because it asks you to explore simulation environments, and there's Gazebo, PyBullet, and Isaac Sim, a lot of different simulation environments that are used that one can explore, and work on real world robotics projects or contribute to the open source robotics projects. Okay. So one criticism I have about this curriculum, and also about the previous curriculums, is that it just expects you to finish a practical project within a month. And you can do that if it is a mini project, but you might need to dedicate an entire quarter to building a project. So this is something to keep in mind. The last quarter is to apply required knowledge in a teaching or curriculum design role. Okay, that is perfect. That is perfect because the goal is to obtain a strong technical foundation, but he is looking for like teaching roles, and we mentioned that specifically. So the first three quarters just gain practical skills and then apply those to curriculum design roles. So gain expertise in curriculum design for robotics education, essentially the learning part, and create teaching materials or develop a curriculum for robotics education. So I really like this overall plan. Apply for teaching or developer relations roles related to robotics and machine learning. Of course, it is in certain ways rephrasing what I said, but it is also very realistic, the entire thing. Uh, it's not perfect, but it is a good starting point, and I think it is also not very far away from the plan that I created for Peter. So let's look at that. Peter aspires to work in curriculum design or developer relations roles for CV or ML applied to robotics. He has a passion for teaching and he wants to build a strong technical foundation. And I broke his plan to 4 phases. Notice that all of the plans that I created are different because that is the core idea, and that is the reason why I built the GPT-4 curriculum builder, is because everyone has a different situation. You cannot expect everyone to follow a same lecture series. Everyone also learns differently, and everyone has slightly different interests, and you can follow a slightly different career path, and for that you need your own unique curriculum builder. So that's why I'm pretty excited about this. And phase one is software engineering foundation, okay, and build machine learning foundation, robotics foundation, and create tutorials, mini courses, or guides. So notice that it is very similar to the plan that GPT-4 created, and it's not that I used GPT-4 to create this plan. So this is a plan that I created entirely all by myself. So that is why I'm really um, excited about this similarity, is that in the last phase I say create tutorials, mini courses, or guides, which is essentially not exactly the same but is very similar to the curriculum, to the plan that GPT-4 generated. It essentially asked the user um, to create teaching materials or develop a curriculum for robotics education. So this is something that is really interesting. So okay, so specifically talking about, I said first 3 quarters, go ahead and learn some Python, build a programming project. Second, going specifically towards machine learning, learn TensorFlow and OpenCV, build a machine learning project for 2 months. Learn ROS fundamentals, build a ROS robotics project. So building robotics ML CV foundation, create a tutorial on the projects that you build, create a tutorial on machine learning things that you learned and build, create a tutorial on robotics. So that is the idea, and I think this GPT-4 curriculum planner is did a decent enough job in this case. Okay, let's look at another case study now, which is that of Dhruv Sharma, who is a student pursuing his bachelor's in mechanical engineering. He knows C, C++, Python, and he has no financial constraints, none at all, and he's open to relocate. Okay, so he aspires to start a professional robotics career, and he is confused in a lot of different career paths involving engineering, research, and entrepreneurship. So Dhruv is actually 20 years old, and that's why he hasn't experienced a lot of different domains in robotics and AI, and he wants to really gain clarity on these things. So let's first look at what GPT curriculum builder would create for Dhruv, right? So Dhruv is currently pursuing his bachelor's in mechanical engineering. So BTech in mechanical engineering, I would say, currently pursuing BTech in mechanical engineering. Next is, of course, he is currently pursuing BTech in mechanical engineering, and yeah, I would just keep it as that. And current skill sets are, he says, C, C++, and Python. Again, if the skills were already of an intermediate or advanced level, probably one can already start applying to jobs. But the skills of Dhruv are essentially fundamentals, which he did based on some of the side projects or courses that he did. So he implemented some projects there, some research projects, and implemented SLAM, CV, ML, some of the things there. So constraints, what are the constraints? So he actually has no constraints. So I would leave this as blank, no constraints, no constraints, no constraints. Aspirations, and he wants to essentially choose between a lot of different fields. So for this one, start. I would just copy this and maybe modify it slightly then. All right. So, okay, I would want to write things in first person. So I want to start a professional robotics career and choose a career path between robotics engineering, research, and entrepreneurship. I am equally passionate about the three paths, and I'm confused as to which path to choose. So I would write it like that, and I want to choose one or multiple domains within robotics as a path, as a career path. All right. So, and I want to decide between campus job placements and going for a master's in robotics. Okay. So that's specific enough. Try to add as much detail as you can in aspirations, because that is the crux of what the GPT-4 curriculum builder would take, and that is what it would base the plan on. And he has 2 hours a day, I would say. Then 15 hours, we can put 14, 15 hours weekly roughly. And then interests. So his interests are interested in interdisciplinary roles such as systems engineering and entrepreneurship. So this is something that he's interested in, and he essentially needs to gain more experience in a lot of different domains to understand it. So prior experience in robotics and AI, I would essentially also copy this thing here, and I will leave it as it is. Okay, now I hope this thing works for the first time. Otherwise, we'll just do it again. Paste, submit, it didn't work, but we have the auto-filling thing, so this would be quick to do. Okay, BTech in mechanical engineering, BTech in mechanical engineering, location India, nationality Indian, skill set basics of Python and C++. Yes, it can be a bit annoying to fill it again, but yeah, I don't know the reason for why it behaves this way, and I would need to figure it out. But meanwhile, I still want this tool to be available to you so that you can try it out, and I can get some feedback on what are the things that I can improve here. So I want to find out my, okay, all right, which one was this? Okay, I think we need to write the aspirations again. Start a professional robotics career. I want to build a meaning. Here. I want to start a professional robotics career, and I want to choose a career path between robotics engineering, research, and entrepreneurship. Yeah, this one was it. And 15 hours per week. Interests are in interdisciplinary roles. Exactly. Prior experience is this. Specific queries, and copying it again and pasting it, and it works. Okay. Yes, let's see. While it is thinking, let's look at the plan that I created for Dhruv, which was a challenging one to make because he is interested in a lot of different things. So, so the plan also involves 4 phases, but different. So Dhruv was also preparing for campus placements currently. So the first phase is dedicated to preparing for campus placements, and those were for software engineering roles. So that would allow him to really learn data structures and algorithms and build a programming foundation. Is something that, of course, we didn't mention in the curriculum builder, and that is okay. The plan need not involve campus placement preparation, right? So phase 2 involves building robotics foundation, and phase 3 involves entrepreneurship exploration, and phase 4 progressive mastery. So notice that This plan is absolutely different from all of the previous plans that I created because the situation is also very unique. He wants to explore entrepreneurship as well, business related things, systems engineering, different aspects of robotics engineering and research and so on. So more specifically, the plan looks like this. So prepare for campus placements, learn programming fundamentals, prepare for campus job placements, prepare for off-campus placements, and create a mini project in computer vision, a mini project in machine learning, and ROS fundamentals. So 1 month each, really small projects, just so that he gets more exposure to a lot of different domains and he can find out his niche. That is the goal, to define for him to define his niche and to generate a list of robotics startup ideas. This is the third phase in entrepreneurship exploration. Shortlist top 3 ideas and validate the best ideas. So this is to give him a taste of what the process of entrepreneurship looks like, especially for robotics related projects or ideas. And the last one is to take a major project of 3 months in one of the three career paths. So this is the plan. And again, in the plan, I've talked in more detail about what are the specific things he needs to learn, data structures and algorithms, C++, crash course, and so on, and uh, a little bit about the tools that he should be considering and that are used in the industry, uh, and how to explore entrepreneurship ideas. And after that, commit to one thing: engineering, research, or entrepreneurship, because for him, he really needed to focus on one thing. He had a lot of diverse interests, and that was really holding him back. So again, GPT-4 curriculum builder is, it's not human, it's a tool, and it cannot optimally make the perfect roadmap for you. And that is also not the goal of GPT-4 curriculum builder. The goal is to essentially use it as an initial uh, learning plan, and hopefully if I optimize it enough, it can be used directly without further modifications, and that would be the future goals of GPT-4 curriculum builder. Okay, master robotics fundamentals and gain hands-on experience in robotics project. Okay, that's a decent yearly goal. And define a strong foundation in robotics principles and programming. The first quarter, complete online courses on robotics fundamentals and algorithms, gain proficiency in Python, build a small project using sensors and actuators. Okay, building a strong foundation, a decent enough plan, could have been more specific, but that is how the curriculum builder is at this point. I would try to make it more specific in the next iterations. Deepen knowledge in perception and control systems. So now it's going more specific actually. So learn computer vision techniques and image processing for robotics, explore motion planning and control. So that is pretty cool. So different subdomains in robotics. Now I think this is where it is actually directed towards uh, allowing allowing you to find your niche. Implement SPLAM techniques and navigation algorithms in a project. So interesting. And then master robotics software engineering and integrations, where ROS tools, develop advanced robotics algorithms, integrate multiple sensors and actuators into a functional robot system. Okay, so I mean, this takes into account, this assumes that you have a robotic system, and you need not have a robotic system. You can do essentially a lot of things in simulation if you cannot afford to buy a robotics kit. Essentially build your skills, try to get an internship or a part-time position in a company and get exposure to real robots by means of that, because robots are expensive. Apply robotic skills in real world scenarios. Again, collaborate on robotics research project with a local university or research institution. So here is where research exploration comes into play. Gain experience in industrial robotics through internships and apprenticeships. This is what I just said, right? That you can gain access to real world projects by applying for internships and these part-time positions and so on. Develop a business plan for a robotic startup or create a robotics project for a real world application. So I have certain criticisms here. One of them is that it is a bit vague, this whole thing. It is good because it slowly starts with talking about building a foundation and then deepen knowledge in perception and control systems, so specific aspect, and then software engineering and integration and applying robotic skills in real world scenarios. But it is not that specific, and it takes into assumption that you need a real world robotic system for integration. But again, what I like is that it asks you to collaborate on research projects, and that is the best way to gain exposure to good research and also robotic systems. So overall, a good plan. Not perfect. If I were to create it, I would do it slightly differently. But you have also seen how I think when I create these plans, and you can use these sort of uh, these videos that I create to gain an understanding of how you can build a plan for yourself. And you can use this curriculum builder um, as an initial roadmap or a plan, right? So, okay, let's go ahead and do it again. And maybe let me quickly fill it up and just test if the API key works this time directly or not. It doesn't. So for the first time, it doesn't work. And for if I do it again, now it would work. Okay, anyway. So let's take up the next case study. And is it the last one? And then there's another one. But I think it makes sense to give you a perspective of these different use cases. So let's be quick at this now. So status is freelancer, bachelor's in EC. So I'll quickly copy and paste these. So freelancer is the status, and then education is bachelor's in electronics and communication. I would like to be more specific here, electronics and communication engineering. And then next is location is in India, Indian, and current skill set includes some of these. Um, and then the constraints are financial. It depends on the projects because it's a freelancing position, right? So time, no such pressure, and location, none. So there are no such constraints. I would say I would leave it as none for this case. And aspirations, of course, when I created the plan, I also thought about these constraints, but I think for the sake of this demonstration, we can just select the constraints as none. So aspirations, what are the aspirations here? So goals are to pursue a master's in Germany and need relevant work experience before applying for a master. So I would just say need relevant work experience and build a portfolio of projects before applying for a master's in robotics, or I would just say AI fields in Germany. And their interests include robotics, ML, AI, software engineering, speech recognition, NLP. So I would maybe just also write robotics or AI fields here. Okay, weekly time availability, it's would I suppose 10 to 15 hours per week. Interests include, I would simply copy it here. Prior experience in robotics and AI, they did a semi-technical internship at a startup. So I would just copy this as well, and some basic projects, I would say, also copying it directly. Okay, looks good. No specific queries. Copying the API key. Hopefully this time it should work, and it did. And while it is processing, it just doesn't take that much time to process it. But meanwhile, we'll quickly look at the plan that I created. So build the foundation, curiosity driven exploration, domain driven exploration, and progressive mastery. So these are the four phases. Yearly goals are multiple: finish a ROS crash course for robotics, finish a TensorFlow crash course for robotics, TensorFlow crash course, Git crash course, Ubuntu crash course, and then in the curiosity driven phase, oh, sorry. Yeah, this is building the foundation phase, and we finish all of these crash courses here, and then curiosity-driven exploration. Complete one mini project in speech recognition. Complete one mini project in NLP, and of course, I also gave a list of projects. But this is something that the curriculum builder would not generate at this point, although in the future definitely will. So, and then domain driven exploration. So curiosity driven exploration is essentially taking her interests into account, and then domain driven exploration is essentially taking into account the domains that she didn't have enough exposure to, and so she can take up mini projects in mobile robots using ROS, and mini project in computer vision using ML, and see if she likes working in these fields or doing these projects. And then after that is the process of making a decision to define a niche and choose it between these profiles. So robotic software engineering position, computer vision engineering position, NLP engineer, software engineer for speech data. So these are the relevant profiles for this particular use case. And then just take up one major project of 12 weeks or 3 months. So not breaking it down into each quarter, this should give enough idea. So gain relevant work experience and build a portfolio for masters in robotics or AI in Germany. That is perfect. This is specific enough. Of course, relevant work experience, this can be maybe specified a bit more, but it looks decent enough as an initial yearly goal. And then quarter one goal is to gain practical experience by completing an online robotics course. Okay, complete module 1, module 2, module 3. So this is a bit funny. How does it know that the course has just 3 modules? And yeah, this is also against what I say. I generally don't encourage you to just rely on a course. I encourage you to try out a project and maybe refer to a course if you're stuck, if you do not have enough theoretical foundation on a particular topic. That is a better way to learn. Quarter two is dedicated to work on robotics projects, essentially to showcase skills and knowledge. So this is where project building projects come into play. Again, there is nothing wrong with this, but this seems a bit too vague. And you can, of course, modify it based on, if you want to take a course first for the first quarter, you can go ahead and do that. Again, it depends on a lot on you. So that is why you should spend some time really refining it. So work on robotics projects to showcase skills and knowledge. Start a robotics project focused on ML and AI, ML or AI. Continue working on the robotics projects. Okay, so this makes sense. So here, this is basically the entire quarter is dedicated to the project. So you essentially continue working on the project, on the robotics project, and complete the robotics project and add it to your portfolio. So this one I think is quite practical. And once you start building the project, you can maybe make these more specific. And after that, since the goal is to gain relevant work experience and build a portfolio, networking and collaborating with professionals in the robotic field. So this one is an interesting one. I wasn't expecting this, but attend robotics conferences or workshops, connect with professionals in the robotics, and 1 month dedicated to collaborate on a robotics project with a team or a mentor. Okay, that is an interesting one. Of course, you don't have to strictly follow this, but that is an interesting one because the goal is to gain relevant work experience and build a portfolio, and this would give enough exposure, and especially if you're collaborating with someone on a robotics project. Of course, if you get this opportunity, so this depends on a lot of things that may or may not be in your control. Finally, apply apply for master's positions and polish your portfolio. So it is very practical, and as you see, this is customized to this specific scenario. So I am satisfied with this overall plan. Now let's look at the last use case, which is slightly different again. So he works as Arav Malikarjunan, he works as an embedded software engineer. So I would just go here and I would say working as an embedded software developer and BTech in ECE. I guess I have to write ECE here again. So Bachelor's in Electronics and Communication Engineering. Location is also in India and nationality is Indian, and current skill set essentially involves C++, Python and Linux because he's already working in embedded software engineering, embedded electronics, and they use software, right? So constraints, no financial constraints, switch job within 1 year max. Okay. Can relocate to other countries in India and other countries. So relocation is not a possible within 1 year max. Okay, so this one is important to specify. So he primarily has more just time related constraints. Aspiration is to essentially want to work as a robotics software engineer. So this one probably a lot of you would relate to because this is probably most of the people on my channel are interested in robotics software engineering. So weekly time availability is essentially, yeah, here you can spend 1 to 2 hours daily and 3 to 5 hours on the weekends if I have to be very specific here. So interests are robotics, computer vision, machine learning, autonomous navigation. I think we would have to fill the form again because um, I forgot to fill a blank form and paste the API key because for some reason the first time it doesn't work the first time. So anyway, prior experience in robotics and AI is essentially in these domains. So embedded security and hacking, integrated sensors with microcontrollers and microprocessors using various communication. I think we don't need to mention that. Experience with Raspberry Pi, C++, Python, participated in robotics competitions, took courses in these, did a final project in computer vision, and implemented ROS project. So, okay, these are all relevant experiences, but of course, mini uh, projects and mini courses and so on. So, again, uh, unfortunately, I think this wouldn't work here uh, as I expected, but please bear with me. I'll just quickly select the details again. So working as an embedded software developer, I'm wondering why it doesn't show it here. Okay, anyway, working as an embedded software developer and bachelor's in electronics and communication, location is quick to fill, current skill set, constraints, switch job within 1 year max. So I'm curious about this one. It has he has no constraints. Aspiration, see, it didn't even take these into account. Okay, so unfortunately I have to copy this again. I want to work in mobile robots in the, okay, I'll just do it again. I want to start a robotics, well, start a career in robotics software engineering. Weekly hours are, can spend 1 to 2 hours daily and 3 to 5 hours. Okay, this one was there in autofilling. Interests are robotics, computer vision, machine learning, autonomous vehicles, and navigation. Okay, prior experience with Raspberry Pi, specific queries, API key. Hopefully this works this time. All right, okay. Let's look at the plan that I created for Arav here. So, so I created a plan that would involve 3 phases. Phase one is define a domain of interest within robotics or niche, build a portfolio of projects within the niche and apply to jobs. So for this particular case, I think he had a lot of clarity already. He wanted to secure a job, which is an aspiration, not a direct goal. Essentially, and the yearly goals can be more concretely set. Although I think GPT-4 Curriculum Builder doesn't really set these goals concretely. I've mentioned in some of my videos how to actually set goals. What is the difference between goal and just a wish? Goal should be something that is very specific and measurable. The SMART goals, the typical SMART goal route, but it should also be under your direct control. So this is one of the things that is overlooked, but is very important. It is absolutely in your control to build 3 mini projects and 2 projects within your domain, apply to jobs, but it may not be in your control to secure a job, although you can set that as a goal if you want to. Try to keep these things as much as you can in your within your control. And so, for example, if you did all of these projects and you applied for these many jobs, and for some reason or another you weren't able to get a job, doesn't mean that your goals are not accomplished, right? Maybe you need to add more projects later on, but you still succeeded in your goals, right? So this is important. Build 3 mini projects within manipulation, navigation, and perception. Again, he is interested specifically in robotic software engineering, and these are the primary domains that one can explore. So build project 1 in the chosen domain, then and build project 2 in the chosen domain and apply for 50 jobs in India, Germany, and US. Build 3 mini projects within these, complete 1 mini project within a month, the next one the next month, the next one on in month number 3, and then build project 1 in the chosen domain. So then you have to really define your niche and take up a project in that niche, and then after that you have to take um, another project essentially, and then apply for jobs. So this is what the plan overall looks like. You can watch one of the early roadmap. I created a roadmap for an embedded software engineer or electronics engineer or something like that, and that should give you um, good idea. So here is the yearly goal: obtain a job as a robotics software engineer. Again, you can set this as a goal actually, but I personally like to set goals that are more in my control. So if my wish is I want to obtain a job in robotics software engineering, I would set my goals very concretely that hey, I want to build a portfolio of 3 to 5 projects, for example, and apply to 50 to 100 companies or 20 companies or whatever. So try to set your goals clearly. But again, this something that I didn't even prompt this curriculum builder to do. So I'm satisfied that it set the yearly goal as obtain a job as a robotic software engineer. Of course, I'll try to refine it in the future. Build foundational knowledge. Quarter 1, develop hands-on skills. Okay, expand knowledge in specialized areas, gain practical experience, and showcase expertise. Okay, build foundational knowledge, review robotics basics, and understand the principles of computer vision. Gain proficiency in ROS and its ecosystem. Okay, that seems very reasonable. And learn basic machine learning. So I think this is a good quarterly goal. These are good monthly goals. Of course, always try to make it more specific and measurable. Develop hands-on skills, creating a project using autonomous navigation using ROS. Now comes the project building part. Implement a computer vision application within using OpenCV and build a simple robot prototype using Raspberry Pi and sensor. So again, 3 mini projects within this quarter. So actually, it's pretty similar to what I created. And then you find your niche, and then you expand knowledge in specialized areas. So this one is surprisingly very similar to what I suggest. So interesting. Expand knowledge in specialized areas, study advanced machine learning techniques and algorithms, learn about deep learning and its applications, explore algorithms and frameworks. Although the route that it takes is more theoretical and learning based, and I would rather encourage you to take up a project in your niche. Gain practical experience and showcase expertise, participate in robotics competitions and work on real world projects. So this is one thing. And collaborate with others in the robotics community and contribute to open source project, update CV, create a portfolio showing your projects, and start applying for robotics software engineering position. Okay, so this is a pretty decent plan actually. So if you're someone who is just stuck at the stage of, hey, I do not really know where to start, this is something that would essentially make it insanely clear. It would essentially give you a certain plan to begin with, and you can either blindly follow it or you can refine it slightly based on your needs. But the key is to just start taking action, and then you would figure out things along the way. Okay, so this turned out to be a pretty long video, and I hope this was helpful. What I'm looking forward to hearing from you in the comments is your feedback. How do you find this tool? Do you like it? Do you think it is useful? What are the different things that I can incorporate into this tool? One thing I specifically want to incorporate is to also create a list of projects. So alongside this plan, it can create a list of projects. Hey, these are the projects that you can try working on. So this is something that would be interesting, and I hope also helpful. Let me know what else do you think would be useful, and how you find this tool. So that's it. Good luck on your learning journey.